So you're tired of running. Well, there's nothing ever going down. You've had it with the same old sound. Allow me to show you what I found. When we wandered down Princess, I'm telling you she waits for you. I've seen her out at midnight, sitting at a table for two. She will walk you through the garden on a drunken afternoon. When you get to know Princess the way I do, once upon a time.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in. This is what brings us together. Today is really the most special podcast I've done yet, to be honest with you. This is pretty crazy. Our guest today is a gentleman named Jason Falkner. For those of you that are unfamiliar with his work, he's played with Paul McCartney on a record. He played on Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. He's played on a bunch of Beck records. He was in a band called Jellyfish that we've actually already done a podcast talking about, because I love them. They're one of my favorite bands ever, and he played on their first record. And, you know, more importantly than that, for me at least, his solo albums, he's got 4 of them and then a bunch of EPs, are like some of my favorite music like ever. He's an incredible fucking songwriter and an amazing musician. And basically from the age of 16 to even really present day, definitely present day, what am I saying? His music has just had this really incredible impact on my life. And the fact that I actually got to interview him is surreal to me. So, I already gave a little bit of a background in a couple podcasts ago about my trip to California and just explaining how it went down. But just to cap it a little bit, I had sent him a message on Facebook, and I never thought I'd hear back from him. And one day I did, about 2 weeks into it. And I was shocked, and I flipped out. I was like, this is incredible. This guy, I'm like, holy shit, Jason Falkner's going to agree to let me talk to him. And man, I sat down and met this guy, and, you know, I was obviously, you know, the 16-year-old in me, which it definitely exists, was fucking shitting his pants. But, you know, I got to this place where we were to meet up, and I saw him sitting there, and I was like, holy shit, fuck. And honestly, man, in seconds, I was made comfortable. He is just such a nice, genuinely pleasant person to be around, and it was just very warm and welcoming. And I was nervous probably for the first 2 minutes, but then once we just started talking and like getting into it a little bit, I felt so comfortable. I mean, he was incredible and just a great person to speak to. He has an incredible knowledge of music, and just good to talk to about anything. And it was just hilarious. We were just laughing, and then I just felt like I was with like a guy I knew, and in a weird way I do, because I can relate so much to his music. And it was just a really special thing. And it was surreal and great, and you know, he's an amazing guy, and people should really listen to his music. I've always been really bothered by the fact that his solo music hasn't been more widely regarded than it already is. I mean, people know who he is. Musicians know who he is. A lot of musicians know who he is, but a lot of average people don't, and they really should, because his music is very accessible, and he's got this approach where you'll think it's like, you know, just like rocky pop music. I hate calling it pop music, and we talk about that in the interview, but there's a lot more going on. If you're actually a musician and you try to play Jason Falkner songs, you're like, oh, that just sounds like, this Beatle-esque pop song, or a Badfinger-esque pop song. And then you try to sit down and figure it out, and you're like, wait a minute, there's a lot more going on in this thing. And like the chord structures are very complex. It's just all around great. I'm going to stop and you're going to listen to this guy talk. But it was an amazing honor. And then we also got to geek out a little bit about audio gear. I'm kind of into that stuff. And we kind of geek out a little bit towards the end of this part 1 of the podcast. It is going to be a 2-part podcast because we had so much to talk to. We literally spoke for about, 4 hours or so. And I had to edit it down to make it 2 podcasts. But it was a great conversation. I really look forward to talking to him again. He's an amazing guy. All of the music you're hearing today is Jason Falkner music. You should look him up on the internet. Falkner, Jason Falkner, and check his music out, because it's really fucking amazing, man. Really amazing. And he's got an interesting story, and it was a pleasure talking to him. If you guys could go on to bringsustogether.com, check out the blog, check out the Facebook. Please check out our Twitter stuff. Comment on our iTunes page. That would be great. There's a lot of people leaving really good reviews and actually really cool comments, and it's awesome to see it. If you could keep doing it, that would be great. Spread the word. Tell your fucking friends and neighbors. You know what I'm saying right now? Okay. Anyway, that's it. I hope you guys enjoy this. This is a 2-part podcast, so this is part 1 with Jason Falkner. Thanks.
I see the world as being led by the blind.
No, I
when
do.
I hear it. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, what when you make records though, man? Like, does that bother you then?
Singing. No, I
Yeah.
love my singing voice.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say I love. No, I do. I love it.
Yeah.
I got
You
no
have a
problem
great
with my
singing
singing voice.
Totally.
Thank you. But speaking voice, it's kind of spastic.
It doesn't, because it doesn't sound like it sounds in your head. Like it sounds
No.
like a totally fucking different person.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It is weird.
That shirt, by the way, is that like a legit, like old school pavement shirt?
It's not. It's an eBay.
Just made it happen.
It's just been washed a lot.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I was at Whole Foods up here. Some dude is like, dude, nice vintage pavement shirt. And I was just like, he's like keeping it old school or something. And I'm like, wow, that's tragic. Like, this
Yeah.
is old school.
Yeah.
Like,
Isn't that fucking crazy, dude? Like, it just happens like this, man. I've been
Yeah.
thinking about it a lot recently because I just turned 33 not too long ago.
okay, so
And I'm like, still like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is happening? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Just wait, man.
Oh, I know. Well, you got
30.
a bit of a fountain of youth thing, man. Like, you look at, that's one of the things I was going to ask you about.
Oh.
You like, do you have some? Are you not a drug person or like?
I've at certain points in my life, I've been an everything person.
Yeah, sure.
But no, I don't. I certainly don't take any kind of care of myself.
That's a
I
shocking.
still smoke.
Yeah. Oh, do you? Oh, thank God. But what's the deal with smoking in Los Angeles?
You
Can
can't
we not
smoke
smoke here? That's fucking crazy.
You probably no. Look, you can't.
Not at all.
And I'm not. And I'm a weird smoker. Like, I smoke when I drink.
Yeah. No, me
So
too. I'm not
kind
like
of relegated to that because
Yeah.
otherwise I just start feeling shitty because I'm
Yeah.
in my 40s
Oh, sure.
and it starts hurting. You're like, what am I
Man.
doing?
Yeah.
It's so stupid. Like,
My life.
we know
Yeah.
better.
I know, but you just do. It's fucking delicious. It's
It's
amazing.
delicious, and really, when you're drinking,
It's incredible.
margaritas.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. Totally.
I'm missing it right now. It's been, well, let's see. I went out. I DJ every once in a while. It's not certainly not I'm nuts, but I don't do any like trickery. Of course, I'm just spinning weird, obscure
Songs
records.
you like, yeah.
Yeah, and the more obscure, the better at the place that I DJ. So,
Where is it?
I DJed at this place in Eagle Rock.
Okay.
Called the Black Boar.
Okay.
But that was only, I guess, last Thursday, and I had just finished 2 weeks of being sick, and so that was like, fuck it, I'm not. Even though I don't feel great, I'm
Yeah.
gonna at dinner I'm gonna have 2 pints, and just like get in a cab with my records and go down
Yeah.
and just rock and roll. I had about 11 Jack and Cokes.
It's medicinal, dude.
I know. I'm
fine.
just trying to flush the system.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
And then I woke up the next day and it was like,
Oh man.
and I'm like, there you go.
Fuck that.
Actually, it wasn't. The next day, I was probably too hungover. My body was too traumatized
Yeah.
to even hear or feel that. It was the
Dude.
following day. It was the Saturday. I was
Sure.
up and it was like throbbing, and I was like, oh man, like, you got to get yourself. Or I do. I used to be really good at, like, when I would go out. I'd go out very hard,
Yeah.
and then I would take a break.
Sure.
And I mean, even from smoking.
Sure.
Never been the kind of guy that, like, has a glass of wine with every meal. I'm not that guy.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm like, I like to, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to get kind of crazy.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Absolutely.
And I make a plan, and I make sure that I have nothing to do for a couple of days.
Yeah. Good recovery. You got to recover a little
Now,
bit.
of course, in your 40s, it has about 5 days.
Yeah, that's the fucking thing I'm noticing, dude. Like, it's like, I know 5 years ago I could fucking just hit shit really hard, wake up the next day, and be kind of okay.
Yeah.
Now it's, and I know it's only getting worse, and it sucks.
It is.
But nothing we can do about it.
There's nothing. No, I know. But I'm starting to freak out a little bit. Like, I need to take care of myself.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, like, but you know, my roommate, he's a huge fan of yours. Actually, he was like, I was talking about questions. Like, dude, can you just ask him how he looks so fucking young all the time? Like, he's like, he really doesn't look like he aged much at all. And
Yeah.
that's, considering you're saying you don't really, that's amazing.
That's
Yeah,
really
it's
nice.
great,
I hear
yeah.
that all the time. It's very nice.
Yeah, totally.
It's no, it's just my dad looks really. We have a youth gene.
Okay.
Well,
That's awesome.
let's see. His parents. Wait, I'm sorry. My dad's grandparents. They're obviously not related.
Right. Good. That's good. That's a good start.
Right. But it is Texas. You never know. I got to clarify that. But they both made it into their hundreds.
Really?
So independent gene, and then that's our gene, and then
Wow.
my dad's mom my grandma just passed a couple
sorry.
of years ago. Yeah, well, it was a couple of years ago, but she was 93, I think.
Okay.
So, and my dad is in his early 70s, and he looks like he's like 60.
That's great, dude.
And especially then, because that's when it really starts ramping
Yeah.
up. You know,
Exponentially.
between 60 and 70, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, it's like Bowie and
Buckle
the
the
hunger.
fuck in.
It's like a week
Yeah.
of the hunger.
Totally.
So,
Well, let me just explain a little bit about
Yeah.
what I do and why I wanted to do this with you, man. I mean,
Yeah.
the podcast is called What Brings Us Together. I started doing it a couple months ago. That's actually fairly new, but it's all about different things. Like a lot of music stuff because I'm a musician. I played music for a long time.
Yeah.
Film stuff, just things that unify people. I know that sounds a little cheesy, but I've noticed this is odd because this is the first time I'm really meeting you. I've seen you play a bunch of times in New York.
Oh, cool.
But you're the type of person, at least the type of musician, when your name comes up, when I'm having a conversation with somebody in music, when they know who you are, there's this light that lights up, and people are like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Fuck. And then we talk about Jellyfish and all the different stuff, and that's why it was like a real dream to be able to do this, man,
cool.
because, they've had like just a profound, I'm not getting sappy here, but like a profound impact on my musical upbringing.
Oh, no, that makes sense.
From like the age of like 17, basically when your first solo record came out until now.
Yeah, cool.
And, so that's why I was like, man, this would be great. And that's the fact that you even agreed to do it, I was like, holy shit. I had a whack attack in a cab. I was like, dude, oh my God, I fucking believe this. So
that's
cool.
awesome. That makes me happy.
So I do want to get a little introspective and like kind of look at the whole scope of things, if that's okay. That's why it might take a little while.
Yeah.
So are you from here? You said Texas. I know your family's from there. Were you brought up there at all, or?
No. Well, actually, I was born in San Francisco, right in the middle. There used to be a hospital called the French Hospital in San Francisco,
Okay.
and then when I was about a half a year old, my dad, who was teaching, I believe he was teaching high school art. He got a job at Abilene Christian University, and we stayed there until we moved out to SoCal when I was 5.
Okay.
So, basically 1 to 5, I was in Texas, but I remember nothing except this neighbor kid throwing dirt in my face all the time. Like,
cute. So you enjoy going back?
Aeneas was his name.
That fucking asshole.
Fucking Aeneas. God.
That's hilarious.
And not Nin.
Okay.
It wasn't a prerogative girl. It was
Right.
a little shithead. But yeah, so then we moved out here, and we moved to a suburb of LA called Agora Hills.
Okay.
It's like 30 minutes north on the 101.
Okay.
So it's pretty close. It's close enough where the city had I had an awareness of Hollywood and the city from a really young age.
Yeah.
Every time we came down here for whatever reason to go to museums or go to dinner, I was just like, I was instantly like a city boy.
Yeah.
I just love like the energy and excitement of the city and the rhythms and the sounds of the tires on the street.
Absolutely.
I was obsessed with all that when I was a kid.
What do your parents do?
My dad just retired, but he was a professor of fine art at Pepperdine University.
Oh, okay.
That's why we moved. He got that job. That's why we moved here.
Okay.
I would have probably stayed in Abilene, Texas, had he not. Thank God he got that job. So we moved out here, and then my mom is like a dietitian.
Okay.
And she mainly spent her life in food services.
The reason I ask is I know your sister's a chef and you're obviously a musician, and you have another brother, is that right?
Yeah, my little brother is an illustrator.
Yeah, and so they've raised 3 creative children. And
Yeah.
just kind of curious about like the upbringing in the house and where that kind of thing kind of comes from. I mean, your dad's obviously into fine art. I mean, that has a huge amount to do with it, obviously. Like,
yeah, it does. My dad is a kind of a quiet but intense guy, and I think maybe somewhere we were all kind of trying to get his attention.
Okay.
A little bit, and maybe that's why we all kind of went down that path. But I mean, for me, the music thing was like something I did. It was apparent to everybody else before I could even understand what that meant.
Okay.
I was playing Crocodile Rock on the piano. I'm not kidding. Like this, like this is my eye height is the keys.
Yeah.
And I figured out how to play, early Elton John stuff, and I mean not the more complicated stuff, but the 50s inspired stuff.
Sure.
And then.
Did you take theory lessons as a young kid? I mean, I know you're.
Oh, I took. Let's see. No, my classical piano situation started. My sister was enrolled in like a group class for little kids.
Okay.
When she was, I think, about 6. I'm sorry. 7, something like that. And apparently, my mom tells the story that she brought me into the class, and it was all these little kids with probably like a little Yamaha portable electric keyboard. I think they were like mono as well, so it's just one note.
Okay, sure.
At a time, and the teacher would be like, "Okay, everybody, da 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 da," and the whole class. And apparently, I started hitting harmony notes. So I guess it wasn't mono; it was a poly thing. But I started harmonizing with some of the things and some of the lessons. Really small little phrases,
Right.
But the teacher was like, "Excuse me, like on our way out, like, this is your son, obviously." And my mom's like, "Yeah," and the teacher said, "Well, he should probably be in this class as much or more than your daughter. Like
That's
he
incredible.
has he's obviously has a propensity for music,
Right, sure.
and all this stuff. So that began. I went to I had a Chinese woman, Mrs. Kim, who was my teacher from. I was in that class for like 2 lessons.
Okay.
And then the woman was like, he should be in a private. He could be a pianist.
Yeah.
And so they sent me to this woman, and I was with her till about 7 or 8, and then she said I had basically outgrown her teaching. So she recommended me for this woman who was the Madame Suzatska. Sorry for that quote, that reference.
No, I like it.
It's a brutal reference. There'll be some Dreyfus references as well.
Oh, yeah, bring it on.
But she recommended me for this woman who was kind of a legendary woman in my neighborhood.
Okay.
And this woman was a badass. Like, she was a whip cracker, but she was super sharp. And she taught me, I was under her teaching until I quit when I was almost 16.
Okay.
So a long time, and I did very well at it. And I put about 10% of my energy into it, and I still won all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I won, there were competitions.
Yeah, piano competitions.
Yeah, and I was like, people would come from different parts of the city, and also, I got towards the end, it got to where people were coming from like out of state and stuff, because I was,
crazy.
and my teacher, even though I was a few years from college level, she had already been in touch with some people that she knew at Juilliard and all that stuff, and she said, you have a place at Juilliard if you continue down this path. Now, the problem was I had discovered the most obscure, weird music via my best friend, Casey.
I was going to ask that next. Where did the rock stuff come from? Yeah.
The rock stuff. Oh, well, okay, so, yeah. Anyway, so I quit, right before I was 16. So that, I grew up, like, embarrassed that I was a good piano player. Like all I wanted to do was have an electric guitar and be
Sure.
like Tom Schultz, when I was like, I had the Boston poster, I had the Yes poster, I then had the Elvis Costello poster, and the Joe Jackson,
Sure.
and the Damned and all that stuff. But it started with like FM rock,
Okay.
because I was born in '68.
Yeah.
So in '78, all I was hearing on the radio was "I Want You to Want Me," Magic Man, of course, all Led Zeppelin stuff was omnipresent. But I was hearing, More Than a Feeling, all that shit just on the radio is just mind-boggling.
And the first few times you hear that stuff, even,
Yeah.
it's just amazing.
It's amazing rock and roll fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fantasy.
The first time I sunk my teeth into that Boston record, I was like, this isn't even real, dude.
It's
Like, how the
insane.
fuck are they doing
I know,
this?
it's so
It's incredible.
watertight.
It's absolutely incredible. Like, obviously something like the Jeff Lynne ELO stuff, too. Like,
Perfect.
It's in the ballpark.
Oh,
Sure,
yeah.
Yeah.
And yet somehow the Jeff Lynne stuff is, even though it's wildly more overdubbed,
Yeah, sure.
it's more organic.
Yeah.
The Boston thing is like this. It's literally a fucking Les Paul from Mars.
Yeah.
The cover is prophetic.
Sure.
But that stuff just blew my mind. So I was like, I think if my teacher hadn't been such a hardhead about like classical is the only true expression of music,
Right.
which she was old school before the term.
Right.
And
Well, a lot of music teachers are like that. Like,
Yeah.
everything else is shit. And
they
this
just
is the real
dismiss
deal.
it.
Yeah,
I mean, guitars are shit.
Right.
For her.
Yeah.
Like a guitar is such a flawed instrument. How can you perform on something that you then have to tune?
Yeah.
Right. Like that's a flawed concept right there. Piano is solid and
Everything's right out in front of you.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean to each his own. But I remember trying to convince her like, but Mrs. Holcomb. But have you heard Yes? Like there's parts that are like Tchaikovsky. Like come on. And
Yeah,
she
sure.
was like balderdash. Bullshit. No way. Negative. So anyway, there was a real riff. But I was surviving just fine with the riff until I got into punk.
Okay.
And then the chasm is even wider because punk is more of an antithesis to classical music
I mean,
than
absolutely.
Boston and Kansas and,
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
So who are some of your guys in that scene?
Oh man. Well, okay. Well, I went just head first because of this weird guy that I befriended. What happened was my band, which was primarily a cover band, when I was in junior high. The rest of the guys in the band were all 2 years older than me. So by the time I was a freshman in high school, they were juniors.
Okay.
So they knew their way around. And they booked a performance of our band. I forget what we were called at that point. But at a pep rally, which is the it's in place of first period.
Okay.
So it's the entire school, and it's in the gymnasium, and it's the entire student body.
Sure.
And this is like the second week of my freshman year, which doesn't matter how cool you were in junior high. And I ended junior high on a bang because that same band we played. We interrupted the quarter flash cover band. with a girl sax player.
No shit.
Doing hard and quarter flash. I asked them. This is my junior high prom. My guys in my band were such losers, basically.
Yeah.
They're 2 years older and they got nothing better to do than hang out with me at my junior high prom. They're all on their skateboards and they're like, dude, see if we can play. Like, because they keep taking breaks. These guys suck, man.
Yeah.
Like mustaches and. Nobody was, fros and mustaches and headbands, and there was something new happening, which was punk and new wave.
Totally.
And even the nerdiest non-musical person in my school was aware that there was something in the wind.
Okay.
So people were like not into this hard my heart, the
Right.
boogie pop, so I went up there. They wouldn't let my friends in. They're not in school.
Yeah.
And so I ran up to the guys and I was like, hey. And then I remember the girl's like, "Hi, cutie," or something, like I'm a little boy.
Right,
she's
sure.
like, I said, "Can my band? Can we play like during one of your breaks? You guys keep taking breaks." And I remember the one guy with like the tash. He's like, "I don't know. Can you play?" You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like, "Can you have
bro?"
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a hard act to follow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, dude. Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, we can play." And she's like, "Okay." So. And so I ran outside and I told my friend, my band was at that time was a trio. My friend who played a Prophet 1, the synth.
Oh yeah, sure.
That was the bass.
That's
so
fucking
Prophet
awesome.
1 bass,
That's sick.
me on electric, and then a drummer, and we played primarily covers.
Mm-hmm.
But we had gotten into punk, so we were playing like a lot of the LA like third wave stuff, like Social D,
Okay.
Shattered Faith, Agent Orange, Adolescence, all that stuff, and we got up and played that shit in front of my class, my graduating class, and the place erupted. It went bananas, and all the guys. There was a little tiny group of like punks. Like one guy had a mohawk and like spit in the air and caught it in his mouth and stuff.
Yeah.
Because this is the suburbs, so there was only one hardcore guy, and he was in fact bussed in.
Right.
Right. For some reason, he was at my like preppy high school.
Totally.
And but I always thought like, man, I like those guys, man. That's my crew. Those fucking weirdos, you know. So I saw them forming a tiny little pit of three. Yeah. A little skank pit of three, and I was just like, and they were like, yeah, and I was, because who the hell knew that some Agent Orange was going to be blown out at my. So anyway, so fast forward to the following year, all that's forgotten. Punk guy's long gone. He's probably living in Hollyweird now.
Right.
And so my friends on our way home one day, they're like, and now my band has expanded. It's now a 5-piece, and we've gotten into more like English beat.
Okay.
And in fact, we're
Love
playing.
English beat.
Me too. And we're playing a new song that Rodney Bingenheimer just started playing by a band called the Stray Cats. We're playing Stray Cat Strut, which still is a fantastic.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Oh, it's sick.
That's another like insane. Like, how the hell are they that authentic? What a guitar player too.
Oh, he's a fucking monster.
He's a total monster.
Yeah.
So, so my friend is like, yeah, we're playing the pep rally tomorrow, and it's just like one of those John Hughes movies. I was like, what? Like, I don't know the lyrics, man. Like, I was just phonetically just like, please don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell he's saying.
Melodies, not words. Yeah.
I don't have a record. I don't have the record, And so I went home and like studied. Like I was like, he like give me the record with the lyrics. I think he wrote down the lyrics for me, and we played that the next day. And in the breaks in Stray Cat Strut, when it's like I walk right by with my tail in the air, every single girl stood up and screamed. It was Beatlemania.
That's fucking.
And
awesome.
it was like insane. It was
first taste of awesome, of greatness, like that. Yeah.
First taste of that kind of shit.
Yeah.
I had already been dealing with the classical like accolades
Very,
as a
very
kid.
different, though, yeah.
So different.
Yeah.
This is like This is like a twitch in the wardrobe.
That's amazing.
You know,
That's great.
So that, you know, again, that's like, and while I'm in high school, I'm still doing the classical thing, so I'm getting all these, you know, I occasionally make like the local paper, you know, as like, you know, a Agora High School student wins again and all this stuff, and it's got a picture, and I'm just like, oh my god, I hope nobody sees this.
Yeah.
Because I was, you know, I was a little rock and roller.
Sure.
They just so happened to be able to do that as well,
Right.
because I you know, have a deep connection with music.
Yeah, understandable. That's great.
So yeah.
So how did the 3 o'clock come out of all that stuff?
Well, there's one cool band that not a lot of people know about that I was in before the 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Do you know the band that I was in before the 3 o'clock?
Sure.
Oh man, okay. There was this is funny. There was a crazy. There was a. I described them as being a cross between Killing Joke and Joy Division.
Okay.
And with some Ziggy era Bowie in there for sure. A band called Community FK. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, Community FK. It's not surprising. I mean, they did make videos. The video there's a video for a song called "Something Inside Me Has Died."
Okay.
and it's like something inside me has died. You know, it's very
Dramatic?
like dramatic.
Yeah.
He had like black. He had 2 cones that were this tall, and then black. You know, it's all egg whited.
Sure.
Just stiff, full makeup, like white, and then black eyes. And I mean, he scared the shit out of me. This guy. And yet they made some kind of interesting music, especially the first record, which is like a $200 LP if you can find it.
Okay.
But yeah, so I joined that band while I was still in high school. This is amazing. I saw firsthand what you're not supposed to do from these guys. This is where I learned what not to do in the music business,
Okay.
or just as a human being.
I suppose.
Basically, I've never seen anything like never saw cocaine before in my life. I was 17 years old,
Right.
from the suburbs. They had like a pool hall, this thing, like a Matterhorn.
Okay.
They look like that thing that you chalk your hands on, the big
Oh God.
round
Yeah.
thing that gets smaller as it goes
Sure,
up.
of course. Oh, dude, that's.
It was like that at rehearsal,
Okay.
and they're just like, and I never did that.
Yeah.
I was like scared of them because of the way they looked too. That they really turned into zombies.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Oh, of
Because they
course,
already
especially
look like
with
zombies.
yeah.
And then they're just like,
Yeah.
but Jason, what the fuck are you doing over there? And I'm just like, oh my god. So, but we played in San Diego. We opened up for the Jesus and Mary Chain the first time here
Oh wow.
when they were
That's
back to the
fucking
audience.
Awesome.
Craziest thing is I'm friends with Bobby Gillespie. He's asked me to be in Primal Scream.
No
I
shit.
played all over the new Primal Scream record, and he remembers that show. And I'm like, dude, I was in the opening band.
That's amazing, dude.
That's 87.
Sure.
87.
Yeah.
That's when I met Bobby Gillespie, and we just worked together
That's awesome.
last year. Isn't that crazy?
That's really crazy.
But yeah, so that band, I'm not on the record, but that was the first band. And the 3 o'clock thing happened. I was a huge fan of the 3 o'clock. I had my high school band even played like I Go Wild and with a Cantaloupe Girl. I was so into it. I saw them probably 5 times in their heyday, and then I went to, let's see what happened. I went to Alaska to work in a cannery when I was 18, right out of high school with 3 friends. We drove up from here, and I was in Alaska for like 2 months. Came home, put an ad in the recycler. I'm like, fuck it, I gotta find a band. So I put an ad in the recycler. You know, Bowie freak in, you know, looking for like-minded, blah blah blah. Got one call. That call was Roger Manning. This is a crazy story. I mean,
That's so funny.
I got one call. It was Bowie, XTC, and the Blue Nile.
Oh, Jesus.
Remember the Blue Nile?
Dropping crazy references. That's
I know.
amazing.
Now it's
I've only
important.
heard their name, actually. I haven't even-
What's that?
I've only heard their name.
It's like electro pop.
Okay.
But very atmospheric.
Okay.
There's songs that are just piano and then like a weird like sound effect and his voice, and it's really like forlorn and kind of earnest. And
Okay.
it's not like electro pop like Ultravox or something. It's way more like sensitive
Okay.
and sincere. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Anyway, believe it or not, I got one phone call on that ad. Like nobody was talking about David Bowie in the late 80s. Probably, I've thought about this, probably because he hadn't really gone away yet.
Sure.
he was still doing stuff in the record. Things he were doing weren't that good, like
Right.
Glass Spider, and that was terrible.
It's a weird time period for him. For sure.
It's a weird time, and so when I said into Bowie, people are probably like, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, like, I'm talking about the 70s. There's a decade of genius.
Of absolutely amazing
Absolute
shit. Yeah.
mind-numbing fucking best stuff ever.
Some of the best records ever, absolutely.
So, yeah. So, hey. Okay. So, yeah, I got one call on that. That was Roger. But the funny thing is, I got that call after when I checked the paper to make sure that my ad was written correctly with the right phone number. I looked down a little further to band-seeking musicians, and it was the 3 o'clock looking for guitar player. This is like right when I got back from Alaska. So I'm like, what? You gotta be kidding. I've seen this band a handful of times. Didn't even know they were still a band because I kind of lost interest. I kind of stopped paying attention to what they were doing. And so I called the number, and it was Danny Banana, the drummer, and we talked about obscure stuff like Orange Juice and Care and all this stuff that I was into. He was also into. He was very much Keeping Up with the Joneses kind of guy.
Okay.
He's very into, like, he had the Enemy and the Melody Maker every week. He really wanted to keep up with what's going on instead of stalling somewhere like most people.
No, that's smart.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I've stalled somewhere. Like, I cannot be asked about how many bands there are now. There's just too many.
It is kind
back
of
then it was like there's like one band a week maybe.
Yeah.
Now there's like 50 bands a week. You gotta pay attention. So anyway, I talked to him. We got along really well, and then I found myself in the band, which was crazy because like I said, I was a fan.
Being a fan, yeah, sure.
But the bittersweet thing was that the demos that I heard, I immediately was given a cassette of the demos, and they were terrible.
Just the writing, or just everything about them?
Just everything about them. It was really weird. They'd kind of lost or they had veered off this sort of 60s tried and true thing that they were great at.
Right.
I mean, I love that influence on that band with that voice and the way they play.
Absolutely.
This was like like DX7 bells.
Yeah.
It sounded like Escape Club or
just trying to modernize themselves a little bit more.
Yeah, and like not having the foresight to go, wait, we're so much cooler than what's going on right now, and we'll bring what we do to what's going on right now instead of joining what's happening, which is always a mistake. And I was, but I was in the band. It was exciting. I was meeting the manager. The manager's like, Jason, first things first. There's no money. It's like, wow, this is how it's going to be. This is the music business. Like we've got no money for you, but you will make some money at some point. But for now, so I didn't get any money like off the advance. I got nothing, and I got like, and I didn't really know that I could be like, that's bullshit.
Sure.
I was just like, okay. I can't believe I'm in the 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
What am I doing? I was just out of high school.
Sure.
And so then we started making the record, and that's when it was just like the production was so bad in my opinion, and they didn't like it either, and they were freaking out, and I remember all of them independently like basically crying, and I at different times like having anxiety attacks, like and I was like saying like, dude, you have to tell him that you got to play drums on this record. It shouldn't be sample.
Yeah.
It's just triggered samples.
Sure.
Because that was what was really happening
I'm
in
sure.
pop music.
Yeah.
But I thought this was an underground band. So see, I knew who Sonic Youth were. Well, did I think Sonic Youth would make this mistake?
Definitely
no
not.
fucking way. So I'm like, 3 o'clock shouldn't make this mistake. You guys are better than that. You're not just some stupid pop band.
Yeah.
And anyway.
So how did it end?
Well, the record's terrible, and then
Let me sum this up for you real quick.
Yeah, bullshit. Everything's just shit. No, and then we toured. And that was interesting. I was dealing with 3 guys who had known each other and come up and had some real highs, and now we're experiencing some kind of weird highs and lows at the same time.
Sure.
It was like we were signed by Prince.
Yeah, Paisley Park, right?
Yeah, and literally Prince is the one because the fable goes that he was friends with Susanna Hoffs, and they had covered his Manic Monday.
Sure.
And he said, what else is happening? And she said, well, 3 o'clock, are happening in L.A. Those are my friends, and they're great, and we came up together and all this stuff, and all that's true. And So he signed him. He signed him before I was hired.
Right.
That's why I got none of the advance.
Right.
And so anyway, yeah, we toured for a bit. There's a crazy story about our tour. We played in Seattle on this tour, and Seattle had no significance to me
at the time. Sure,
yeah,
sure,
it had
sure.
nothing interesting about Seattle at all, except maybe Hendrix, and I didn't even know that. It's just a weird city I'd never been to before, with some kind of hardcore-looking people walking around. And we played this place, and this was one of the last shows that I did with the band because I left. And this band called the Miracle Workers were opening up, and the Miracle Workers, I was all, wow, sweet, the Miracle Workers, because I had seen them when I was like in high school. I would come down to Hollywood and go to this club called the Lhasa Club all the time. That's kind of where I hung out, and it would be like Lydia Lunch. I saw Henry Rollins doing his poetry there, and it was kind of trying to be like a speakeasy,
Sure.
But in '80s. So, and then I saw a bunch of cool bands there that nobody's ever heard of, like the Alley Cats, they were in that movie Erg, A Music War.
I'm not familiar.
Oh man,
Really?
Immediately
Totally,
watch
totally.
Erg, A
Okay.
Music War. It's all the bands of the early '80s live.
Oh, that's
in
fun.
different venues. It's got Magazine. It's got Dead Kennedys.
Really?
It's insane. Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
B-52s. Elvis. I don't think Elvis. Police. XTC doing.
When they were still doing that,
XTC doing. Respectable Street.
Oh,
It's
fuck.
out of control how energetic Andy is.
Oh, really?
He's like, wow, and like with a weird like ascot. It's like, wow.
The energy of like some of their live recordings is fun. Did you ever get a chance to see them ever?
Oh no, they stopped before.
Yeah. I mean, that band is just fucking like next level shit.
Me too.
Like,
Yeah, for me too.
Like one of my favorites ever.
Me too. Only now when I go back, some of it, not all of it, but some of it is just too fucking clever and too busy.
Oh,
for
sure.
me now. For
for
me now.
the early stuff as well, or just the later stuff?
No. Well, I would have to say the very, very beginning stuff is too clever and too busy and too angular. And then the Oranges and Lemons, which I was really into at the time.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, it's just it's chaotic.
Skylarking is always my favorite.
Skylarking is probably where it was kind of like, let's just focus on this thing right here.
Yeah.
And then next section is this thing.
Yeah.
Tut's Todd.
Sure, well, absolutely.
And that's a fantastic record. And
Yeah.
When I was younger, my favorites were big. I actually loved the Big Express,
Oh, that's a great record, yeah.
which is kind of one of their weird, nobody talks about records.
Sure.
And Mummer.
Dude, Mummer fucking... Loving a Farm Boy's Wages is the shit.
It's perfect.
It is so
When I was a kid, that was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a whole XTC awakening experience as well. But where were we? We were talking about the 3 o'clock?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so, the Miracle Workers.
Good to bring it back, man. What's
Thank you.
Nice shot there.
Thank you. I've been drinking. Credit the air. So this band was bowl haircut, Rickenbackers up to here, full birds.
Yeah.
Full on birds. When I had seen them when I was in high school at the Lhasa Club.
Okay.
Fast forward, this is 88. It was a couple years later. Things have changed. The hair has grown out and is parted, hard part in the middle, and full-blown blue cheer now, MC5. And the Rickenbackers are still there, but the straps have gone longer, and the pickups are replaced with the MGs.
Right.
And the singer is now and they're just an ass-kicking, like, Detroit,
That's fucking great.
kick your fucking ass band.
Yeah.
And so, I was like standing there in the audience, like, Miracle Workers, woo, like, in my time, and then they come out and they're like, motherfucker! And I was like, and I remember I looked around to nobody and just said, we're gonna get killed.
Yeah.
Because there was something in the air, in scenes, there was something going on in this city.
Sure.
I didn't know what it was. I'd never heard of Green River. I'd never even heard of Mudhoney.
Yeah.
I didn't know that stuff. Love Mudhoney.
Yeah.
Now, but I didn't know them then. So I didn't know what was going on up here, and this is basically like the next Detroit scene. It was a real strong, real urban fuck you scene going on, and and we were like, jet fighter, man in the day, fake English accents.
Right. Sure.
So I was like, we're gonna die. We're gonna die. And I had a new 335. God, I wish I had that guitar still. It's a $40,000 guitar now.
Jesus.
I had that on the road back then, no problem. It's a 61 335.
God damn.
And I was like, okay, so we start the first song in Jet Fighter, and there's these 3 guys dancing like ballerinas in the front. But that's a little pit, but they're not slamming. They're like doing pirouettes. And
Right.
And I'm like, oh no, like, I'm a lover. I'm not a throw
Not
something
ready
at you.
Yeah. Take some shit down.
No,
Yeah.
and Danny, the drummer, bless him, who's also, just he's not an ass kicker at all. But he had just had it, and the 3 o'clock was on its last leg. He knew it. Everybody knew it. And so and we do half the song, and these guys are just going bananas in the front here, and they're pushing people, and all of our nerdy headgear 3 o'clock college fans, college. That's original college music.
Sure.
REM, Let's Active,
Totally.
3 o'clock, Dream Syndicate, and they're like, we can see it. It's just these guys are creating havoc.
Absolutely.
And Danny stops the song, very un-Danny, gets up, stands up, and goes, "Hey, just because we don't go doesn't mean we suck." It's kind of, and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of sad."
Yeah.
Like, wait, don't do that either. It doesn't mean we suck.
Yeah, totally.
And so I'm just like, my guitar. Okay, I'm starting to unplug the guitar.
I'm gonna quietly leave. Excuse me.
But I had forgotten, and I was instantly reminded when I turned around, literally take my guitar off, because this was just turning to chaos. Oh, and the guy's like, "Come on, motherfucker!" Like in the audience, he's like starting to kind of climb the wedge.
Uh-huh.
And Danny walks out from his pink drum set.
Nice.
No joke.
Okay.
Walks to the edge of the stage, kicks this guy in the chest, and it goes flying back into his friends and toppled over.
Man.
Just chaos. So that's when I'm like, okay, this guitar's going away.
Absolutely.
And I look, and I had the biggest brother on the planet was my guitar tech. I can't even remember his name, but he was a sweetheart. He was a teddy bear. But he was fucking big.
Yeah.
And he was just he was like this behind my half sack. And he's like, "You want me to do something about this?" I swear to God, and I'm just like, "Yes, now, yes." And so he just goes, "Okay." And he goes out there, and I saw with my own 2 eyes this dude pick these 3 guys up, kind of situate them together, and walk out and throw them outside. And the crowd erupts with joy and laughter and like,
awesome,
"Look at our nerdy heroes." We finished our set. Anyway, that was Mark Arm.
Man.
And legend has it that one of those 3 guys was Kurt Cobain.
Jesus, dude.
And a guy named Barrett who was in Screaming Trees.
Wow.
That's what I've been told. I'm fairly certain that at least it was Mark Arm and Barrett. I think his name was Barrett Martin. He's the drummer of the Screaming Trees.
Fuck,
But this is
dude.
pre-Nirvana.
Any of that, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
that's insane.
Dude, that's fucking crazy.
Those 3 guys. And then
Yeah.
and then I remember a girl came up to me and she's like, "Hey, you want to go somewhere?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And she goes, those 3 guys, they're waiting behind that van to kick your guys' asses. And we were like, and she's like, "I know another exit." And I'm like, "Let's go."
Dude, you almost got a Cobain ass whipping.
I know, yeah. So that leads me to believe that maybe it wasn't Cobain,
Yeah.
because he doesn't really seem like he played.
No, totally not.
Unless-
That's a wild story.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah, that's really crazy.
But that was the end of the 3 o'clock.
So where's the transition work between, you said Roger called you before you joined the 3 o'clock to joining Jellyfish? How does that...
Okay,
I know
so
he was doing Beatnik Beach and all
the
that.
3 o'clock did do a show, and I would guess it was on our way home from that tour.
Uh-huh.
We'd played Seattle, and on the way back we played San Francisco, and there was a band that was... I heard their name a couple times, like in the van, like with the radio rep, or
Sure.
you know what I mean?
Sure.
And it was like, "Hey, Beatnik Beach," and I'm like, "That is the dumbest name I've ever heard in my life, man." Beatnik Beach, and they're playing the song "Hit the Road, Jack Kerouac to Beatnik Beach," and I was like, "That is fucking ill."
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, this we're at the sound check. And this guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, I think you know our keyboard player, Roger Manning." And I'm like, "What? That's the one guy that answered my ad."
Yeah.
Like it was only like a year. between that and this.
Wow.
But so the Beatnik Beach were opening up for us in their hometown of San Francisco, and I saw him and Andy on stage. The other guy playing an upright bass I could do without. The guitar player was good, but the drummer singer was fucking insane.
Yeah.
And so was and the keyboard player was Roger, who wasn't there. Not a lot of note was taken of what he was doing, but the singer, I was like, and Roger was like, "This is the guy that I called you about," because I forgot to mention, like, after Roger and I's initial meeting, like a year later, he called me and he's like, "Hey, I'm in this band with a guy I went to elementary school with. I'm back up in SF, and you're the perfect guy to play guitar with us." And I said, at that point, I was like, "I just joined at 3 o'clock." And he's like, "No way, the 3 o'clock, you know?"
Yeah, totally.
So then, a year later, we're playing a show together, and then he's like, "This is the guy. We want to secretly leave these other 2 guys and just have the 3 of us." And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty exciting." Problem was, I was wanting to sing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so there was already like a kind of a crack in the foundation before we even started, because I mean, those guys came down after I left at 3 o'clock. Those guys, Roger and Andy, came down to visit me. Roger said Andy really wanted to see if it was a personality fit, which it wasn't, and Roger knew that it wouldn't be, because Andy and I are both 2 alpha.
Okay.
And Andy is a non-communicative alpha.
Okay. That can
Yeah,
that can be a
really
struggle.
challenging.
Yeah,
there's
sure,
just
sure.
there's nothing said. There's just disappointment.
The music that guy is capable of writing, or that's just very surprising to hear. But
I know.
one never knows until you're obviously in the situation.
I know.
So,
I know, because I had the demos.
Yeah.
Because Roger got me the demos before they had come down to visit, and
Yeah.
I had fallen in love with the demos, and I fell in love with everything about it. And it's the same demos that are on that box set, and they're fucking good demos.
Those are fucking unbelievable.
They're amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
Even the songs that aren't on that first record, like King for a Day.
Yeah.
That stuff, I was just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And so that just kind of happened.
You're thrust into this thing, and obviously it's a label thing. You guys had some serious play. I mean, like, I remember being in 6th grade and getting a sheet of paper that says, "Jellyfish says don't do drugs," and it was. I swear.
You still have that?
I fucking wish I still had it. I was 12, and I just remember, I've been in music since I was 8, and I'd heard the name before, and I didn't really know.
Wow.
And so years
That's
later,
some
when I
Kiss shit
really
right
got,
there.
it totally was.
That's amazing.
And it was, everybody dressed up in the garb, and like, I was like, this is interesting. And then hearing the name later and later, I wish I still had that fucking piece of paper. But so, and speaking of the garb, how did that? Was that something you were like, fuck this?
Yeah.
From the get go.
Yeah, the
because you
garb.
always looked a little bit different than everybody else too. You seemed to
I did.
hold back a little bit.
I figured it out. I figured out how to survive.
Yeah.
With that prerequisite, which was not explained to me when I joined the band at all. I was into just kind of being stylish.
Yeah.
But not a cartoon character. And I remember when we were doing the demos for Belly Button, that was the first time I ever heard anything about this image thing. And it a lot of people, especially when things got ugly, they were like, well, the label obviously made you look like that. And we were always like, what label in their right mind would ever make a band look like it? No, that came directly from us.
Yeah.
We take full responsibility.
Yeah.
The label didn't like that. The label was like, you guys are nuts, man. Like, why don't you just wear jeans and a t-shirt? Like, your songs are good enough.
Yeah.
You don't need all this shit. And that's kind of where I was coming from, too. Not jeans and a t-shirt, but maybe looking a little cooler in my mind.
Sure.
Looking a little more like Television or something.
Sure.
And not like Barry Williams.
Yeah.
Four berries. That's a good name for a band. Good name for a band. Triple Berry.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were doing demos, and I remember Andy pulling out from the closet some platform, like American flag platform boots, and going, I can't wait to rock these. And like Roger was like, yeah. And they were like, man, we're gonna have all this stuff. Roger's got like trunks full of stuff from the Goodwill. Because if you think about the time, that's
Sure.
when all of that stuff was first taken to the Goodwill.
Yeah.
The first generation.
I've never thought about that before.
It's totally insane. No, I cannot even believe when we would go to Salvation Armies and it would be a full, like, Alice Cooper band. You could dress all the guys in the band, maybe minus Alice.
Right.
But just full, those puffy pants tucked into platforms, scarves galore, a lot of American flag stuff, a lot of happy face stuff, but stuff that just doesn't exist anymore. That generation got rid of that stuff right around then.
Yeah.
Late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we just literally scoured. None of that stuff was bought anywhere fancy. That was full.
I never knew. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And as far as, like, you know, the writing stuff, I mean, you're obviously a songwriter, and at the time, that was, you were in the forefront of doing that. Like, so how did the dynamic of, like, songwriting work? Did they ever say, do you have anything? Or was it always like, this is our band, and this is what we're doing?
That was the initial rub. It was because I joined the band under the pretext,
guys,
or the concept that they said, you know, we know you're a songwriter, and I remember Andy saying, I know Roger's a real big fan of your songwriting.
Right.
He and I had traded some cassette, you know, songs, some cassette recordings. Yeah, and Roger was always like, wow, you know, blows my mind, like, this thing that you're doing is very different than what we're doing, but it works, and I get it, and all this stuff. And so it was, and Andy was like, we want this to be a democracy and a real trio, so we want to do your songs, we want you to sing, and all this stuff. Basically, that just didn't happen. It didn't end up happening. It was just kind of bullshit.
Right.
So when I you know, uprooted myself and moved to San Francisco, lived with my sister in the Tenderloin. By the way,
fun.
Yeah, getting shirtless guys chasing me down the street.
Jesus, dude.
Like, yeah, I don't think they were gonna kick my ass. I think they were gonna do something else.
Probably so. It's probably safe to say.
Yeah. But that was crazy. So I was very disappointed when we were doing the demos. First of all, he pulls out all this ridiculous gear that he thinks I'm gonna wear.
Yeah.
And then he's also like, you know, I'm like, well, how about this song, you know? And he'd be like, it's a great song, but it's not right for the band. Well, how about this one? You know, a man is the only animal that keep beating his head against the same wall, and I only did that for, you know, a short period of time until I just said, okay, so that was a lie. So I was totally deceived. I take things very personally. That's one of the things about me that I work on, is that I'm very, very sensitive, like overly sensitive. And, you know, in retrospect, I probably could have kind of assimilated more, and therefore maybe something would have happened with the songwriting being divvied out a little bit more. But
sure.
But again, that's also, who cares? I mean, that's, who knows?
Yeah.
And it's probably actually not even true, because those guys really had their thing to say.
It seems that way, yeah.
And it's cool, and I get it, and I respect that. And I kind of did the same thing when the Grays. I mean, even though it seemed like that was three equal guys, it wasn't.
Yeah, I do want to get to that.
Yeah.
I just have like two more jellyfish.
Sure.
If you don't mind. So, the one thing I've been dying to know forever, because I never heard you talk about it. What do you think of Spilt Milk? Like, as a record, like, if you can remove yourself from it, because you didn't really play on it. I know there was like one song, Bye Bye Bye, I think was around when you were in the band, but like.
Yeah, we did that live, but I didn't play anything.
So, I mean, were you ever able to, or have you ever been able to like sit down and listen to that record and be like, this is a thing?
I never have.
No shit.
It's not that I'm unable. I just never did.
Interesting.
I guess I wasn't interested enough, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I'm sure you probably have a little bit of a bitter towards it because you were obviously in the middle of it too.
I mean, I wasn't treated very well from either of those, but mainly Andy. So it was kind of like when I like to sit down and listen to him, and I do remember I bought it when I was in the Grays. I bought it used in somewhere on the road. And I do remember being slightly relieved, because I'm like, it's not that good. like it's so overblown. Like, but again, I also like overblown.
Right.
So I get it.
Yeah.
And I like, you know, dense,
lush production too. I mean,
lush production.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
You know, so I like it. But I have never sat down and listened to the whole album. It's got some songs that I loved. I was bummed. I think that the Bye 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 version that's on that record isn't as charming as the demo.
Yeah.
Like, there's something, it's too polished.
Yeah.
You know, that's the one thing about those guys. And I heard it via other people after I left, that was the thing that they missed about me, was that the way that I play guitar it has some attitude in it that is not. It's not just the notes. It's not just the part.
Sure.
It's
like
got
your own feel, your own vibe, sure.
and it's got like a soul to it that they never felt any of the guys that played on the second record had.
Yeah.
Even though those guys were technically probably years ahead of me,
right?
As far as being able to
proficiency and all that.
Yeah,
sure.
all that stuff. That's not really that important.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing from our manager that Andy was unhappy with all the people that were trying out for the band, and he was unhappy with a lot of stuff, and the manager said, well, what do you want? He's like, well, I want Jason. And I'm thinking, man, you know how far that would have gone if I heard that one time while in the band? I mean, it's classic, like, Bad Dad and shit.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Like, he's saying that like a year after I left, and he never said anything like that to me. Not once. I thought the whole time he was just like, give me the shit eye. And he was giving me the stink eye every show.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, have you not really communicated with him at all since you've left? I mean, have you seen him? Or I don't even know what he's doing. I mean, like...
I don't know what he's doing. I saw him one time. I think he does cartoon music.
That's the last thing I heard. It was like Coffee Yumi a couple of years ago, yeah.
And if you're doing cartoon music, you're making a fortune.
Really?
Yeah. If it's anything Saturday.
Yeah.
No, I think he's probably doing that and doing well. And I did see him... I was playing... This is hilarious timing. I was at this studio right down the street here, Ocean Way.
Oh, okay.
I was recording with Paul McCartney.
Totally.
Talk about getting my due.
Yeah.
I was in there with Paul, and I heard this voice. There's a wall of like kind of in between the lobby and the studios. There's a long hallway, and it's pictures, wall of fame stuff. Or hall, yeah.
All the gold and platinum records and all that stuff.
No, just pictures of clients, a lot of people, bands and stuff. I'm on there a couple times, and I was looking at the picture. I was looking for an old picture of myself that I think that they had removed, and I was like, "Oh, that's bullshit." And I hear this voice say hi to the girl that worked at the front, and the voice sounded familiar, but not enough for me to look. And then I just kind of, in my periphery, I'm still just looking my own business, and I just hear Jason Falkner, and he just came out right away and was just like, "Man, I had a premonition that I was going to run into you," and he's like, I just wanted to apologize because he said, I mean, this is unprovoked,
straight out the gate too.
This is like maybe he's been wanting to see me for a long time just to say this, which make it's nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's like, I just wanted to apologize. I never gave you a chance. I never gave you a chance in the band, and you've obviously proven your value, and I'm sorry about that. And I was like,
wow.
I was like, you were a cock, man.
You said that?
Yeah.
Really?
I was like, but it's okay. But it was very difficult.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know. And he was just like, I'm really sorry. And he goes, let's freak Jack out. Let's walk in arm in arm. Because Jack's just a Puig.
Oh, Puig, yeah.
That's who he was going to visit. And he's like, what are you doing here? I was like, well, I'm working with Paul McCartney. And he was like, oh, well,
no big deal.
Fuck me.
Yeah, totally.
I'm just going to see Jack.
Wow.
Who's working with like Tonic or something,
Yeah.
And so we walked in arm in arm. And Jack, it was Jack.
He knows the story, I'm sure.
Well, oh yeah, very well. And he had to get in between us a lot, and he jumped out. He's Mr. Theatrics, so he jumped out of his chair and rolled around the ground. He's like, oh my god, too close, and all this stuff. And we were like, it was funny, but that's the last time I've seen him, and I got his number then, and but we never called each other.
Okay. Well, because I know you worked with Puig on the first Jellyfish record as well on the Grays record, correct?
Yeah.
What is that experience like? Because I'm into engineering. I mean, I work at an engineering place. I've done a lot of engineering.
Oh, cool.
That guy is fascinating with what he's able to accomplish.
Yeah, he's very good. He is, just a super meticulous, pretty quick, but very meticulous. Likes to check out all of his options. I mean, okay, the thing about Jack is, gear's a part of all that.
Sure.
It's not 50%. It's less than that, but it's right around that.
Of course.
I think.
I know. I agree with that.
Personal opinion. And he started collecting gear before anybody I know.
Yeah.
Tube gear.
I've seen pictures of like the floor to ceiling like rack spaces and shit.
I mean, he had a Fairchild 670 when I, of course I didn't know what that was, but he got things like that for $500.
Jesus.
$30,000 compressors, and now. Yeah. I remember he had two Fairchilds in 1989, two of those, because people were throwing tube stuff away if it didn't work.
Wow.
Capitol would throw in their dumpster U-47s because the tube was bad.
Wow.
It's not a joke.
No
And
shit.
I personally know people who used to dumpster dive.
And get the shit.
And get this shit.
Yeah, sure.
And they were all engineers. It wasn't like, you don't dumpster dive if you're just like driving down the street. Like,
Right.
where's that bin for that place? But, if you work there and you're like, you see the tray, the guy in the cart with a bunch of shit on it, and it's going to the trash.
Yeah.
And they're
Wow.
like, dude, that is not trash.
That's fucking
But, you don't
crazy.
say anything. You just take it.
Of course.
And
Man.
I have another friend who used to be he was an assistant. He was a runner at Capitol, and he got a couple 47s out of the trash can.
Dude, that is fucking crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
So Jack was doing all that, but he's a meticulous guy, and he's a really good producer. I mean, he's gotten, I think he gets a little bit of flack because he's very into like his mystery, and he's very into like being like, we call him Jackula,
I could say I saw him at AES in New York a couple of years
he's
ago, and I was
kinda
like, he's
kinda
got
silly.
that vibe. Yeah.
He's kind of silly sometimes, and he's very well respected. I think the Grays record I think sounds tremendous.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And because it has dynamics. It's very compressed, but it's very compressed in a very vintage
Sure.
way. It's not a modern brick wall
Absolutely.
thing, and that's why I like it. Some people I'm sure a lot of people prefer that slammed Green Day sound and all that because it's loud.
I think younger ears do because they don't know the difference.
They don't know the difference.
Understand dynamics. Absolutely.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a huge deal.
They would hear Court and Spark, which is one of my favorite sounding records of all time, and go, well, yawn, but to me, my God, that has like breath.
Yeah.
It's not bright.
Absolutely.
It's like dark.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Like, I hate bright records. I've made some bright records, and I can't stand. Like, when I listen to, if I listen to I Live, I'm like, oh, because it's SSL bright.
Yeah.
We made that at Chick Corea Studio. Well, here, do you want to keep?
Yeah.
Go
Is that good?
sequentially?
We're doing so good so far. So as far as how liberating was it for you after coming out of this, the Jellyfish situation where you couldn't really write, and going to the Grays where you were really like the principal songwriter? I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, I'd like to think you were. I mean,
No,
right?
Jack thought I was.
Yeah, I mean, you wrote the majority of the songs on the record.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So, I mean, how did that work in your head at the time? I mean, as far as
I thought I had arrived. I was ready. Like, I had been under the thumb of other people for so long. That I just was, I was exploding at the seams. Man.
Yeah.
I was so happy. I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm, Mr. Cool in my mind. And I'm ready to show like that. I'm ready to like do some stuff that sounds like The Damned and Big Star and mix all this.
Yeah.
Mix my my love of. Like for me, my songs weren't this kind of Beatle-y thing that record is labeled. Even though to me that record is nothing like the Beatles, except the referential shit that's on it, which most of it is not in my songs.
Right.
Yeah. The Beatles stuff, I mean, I hate Beatle-y stuff when people do it if it's too dense. To me, the beauty of the Beatles is that it's really sparse.
Absolutely.
And you hear each guy's personality playing, singing, whatever. You hear an occasional tambourine overdub or an occasional, third guitar. But with the exception of the keyboard stuff, it's the guys playing.
Yeah.
And I can't stand like all the power pop stuff that's really thick and like kitchen sinky. And that Graves record is so kitchen sinky.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we did that record with an attitude that is not apparent on the record. We were like making that like that was scrappy. I mean, we were taking mushrooms in the studio. We were having parties with kegs and recording some of that, and that would be part of certain skeletal sections of songs.
Sure.
And it just sounds like Steely Dan to me.
I would never have guessed that.
Oh,
ever.
yeah.
Because it does have a very tight, polished sound.
It has a tight, polished.
It does not have a mushroom sound at all.
No, and
Wow.
no, but here's the thing: it's there. It's just subdued in the mix. There are things happening on that record that if they were more in the forefront,
Sure.
it would have been a psych rock, more of a psych rock record, and not this kind of like white. It's very white.
Yeah.
It's very 90s. You
Yeah.
know, it's almost as I mean, but if you listen to like my song "Spooky," which to me I don't even know how anybody let that song happen. It's like the weirdest song. I was listening to Tom Waits heavily. I was listening to Beefheart. I was listening to like you know, and I don't need to listen to the Beatles. I'm of the Beatles.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
The Beatles I'm trying to go away from because
Yeah.
it's already too much.
Right. You spend your whole life listening to that kind of stuff.
And Costello and all
Yeah.
that stuff is just so ingrained, ecstasy.
Yeah, sure.
So I was wanting to do something, you know, and then like Both Belong was like my Dylan folky thing, and yet when the band comes in, again, it's got this kind of softness to it.
Sure.
That to me was in contrast with what I was saying and what I was playing. I was, you know, like it's not a total hit, or you know, a success.
Yeah.
But I do think that the record sounds really cool, and I think that I am very proud of it. And I'm very proud of the stuff of mine that's on that record. That record is really like three separate people.
You can hear it instantly. It's almost like listening to Tusk. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like clearly here.
I'm sure we were fighting just as much. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm
Was
sure
that
we
bad,
were
really?
ill communication,
Really?
like no communication. Just why am I in this band again? What am I doing with these guys? I don't even know these guys.
Yeah.
Like they all know each other. They're from Boston. You know, it happened because John. I met John first, and I had a girlfriend who was working at a coffee house here in LA, and it was when I was in Jellyfish. But he came bounding up to her because I made her a cassette of Zombies Odyssey and Oracle.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And this
Absolutely.
is 1990.
Okay.
And she was playing that as well as probably I was kind of had like a Turtles period, but the Zombies were ripping my head off, and so
They're amazing. Yeah.
amazing
Ron
record.
Argent's fucking ridiculous.
And God, that was the missing link
Yeah.
for me. It's Kinks, Beatles. What's in between?
Yeah.
Zombies.
Absolutely.
You know, Left Bank, but I didn't discover that for another year or so. Anyway, so that guy that came up and was like, "Who made this tape? You know, who's playing this music?" And my girlfriend at the time was like, "That's my boyfriend made me this cassette." He's like, "Who's your boyfriend?" You know, and she said, "Jason Falkner." He's like, and he knew who I was, and he was like, and I guess he showed up the next day and presented a cassette to give to me. So when I got home, she gave me this cassette. It had some Brian Wilson demos. It had some very Ray Davies demos that were really cool. Like I Go to Sleep by himself. And all that stuff.
Nice.
Stuff I hadn't heard. And then it had some of his songs. And his songs had this real kind of 80s thing that was still kind of recent enough to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Had kind of a squeezy,
Sure.
you know...
Pub rocky vibe a little bit, or not really? Or
what is it?
Pub rock?
No, not pub rock. Way more like romantic guitar pop, but kind of you know, kind of DB, kind of Chris Stamey.
Okay.
But had like real like vibes and stuff on things, but still like a pop song with kind of 60s drumming. You know.
Sure.
You know the drill.
Yeah.
And I was like, So I went on another leg of the tour, came back, and decided to meet up with this guy. And we went out drinking, and then became best friends. And, hung out quite a bit, and then I remember him calling me. We weren't really best friends, but we became like, we would go out and have a good time, shoot pool, and drink a lot of beer. And then I remember he called me, and he was like, "Hey, I know you're like sitting around doing demos. You're probably kind of bored. Why don't you come down to this rehearsal studio? I've got a couple friends from town, from Boston, and we can just jam. We can play some Kinks songs, and
Sure.
Beatles, whatever." Well, I was like, "Yeah, I haven't played with anybody in a long time, like since I left Jellyfish." And even though that was only like 6 months later, but
Right.
it seemed that back then that was like forever. And so I went down to this rehearsal studio, and the true story, the reason the Grays got all this action was we had a guy that became a mutual friend of ours. At the time, he was friends with the guys from Boston. This guy named Manny. And he called another guy that he knew that was the head of A&R at Capitol right here, and said, "You're not going to believe who's a band. I'm here. I'm witnessing this is a band. It's Jason Falkner, John Bryant, Buddy Judge, and Dan McCarroll." And I got home, and I guess according to Manny, he held the phone up to the door of the room we were in, and I got home that night, and I had a message on my machine from this guy who actually attorney at the time was shopping my solo cassette that I had finished months earlier. Had already given this guy Josh at Capitol a copy of my cassette. I got a message from this guy saying, "I'll sign this sight unseen. I can't believe I'm a fan of all of yours. I know all of you guys." And
that's incredible.
And so that's how it. All of a sudden we're like, "Oh, I guess we're a band. I guess we should do something with this." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's not the right guy." Like to me, I'm like, our guitar player looks like Gary Cooper, like like a chain, like a pocket watch, and like I'm just like, I'm into like I want to be like gnarly right now. Like I'm on, I want to fucking rock out and like, but with my weird stuff that I was into. Like I was, like I never stopped listening to The Fall, and I was really into like monochrome set,
great fucking band,
bands like that. So I wanted to kind of like do that. I wanted to do some like art rock. And anyway, all of a sudden we're getting, here's $250,000 to be a band and make a record, and you can choose anybody you want to produce it, and you can make it anywhere you want. And so I said, well, let's make it in some shithole studio. Like, let's fucking get funky. Like, I don't want to be at this studios where they follow you around with a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah,
like, fuck that. I want to go to some weird haunted place.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly I was in the wrong band. And, so we went to a funky-ass studio right down the street here, and spent 3 months in there, and just taking mushrooms. And, I mean, that wasn't all the time.
Right.
But there was a handful of times that happened, and we would record a little bit.
Yeah.
We'd get bugged out, and it was fun. It was a blast.
Yeah.
It was a blast to make it. But there were already like personality problems, like even making the record. So it just, I knew that it was doomed, and I didn't even like, it wasn't the kind of thing that I proudly even played for friends.
Yeah, really?
You know what I mean? It is now. Well, not really now. Now it's, if I'm going to play anybody anything, it's from some from my last 2 records.
Yeah.
For me, those are, I don't even care that those records, that hardly anybody even knows that they exist. I think that those records are the best thing I've ever done, without a doubt.
The last 2?
I think so.
I think it might be on. I think
they're insane. Like, I listen to those. I can listen to them objectively.
Right.
I can listen to them like, I don't even know how those things happen. Like, if you saw where I make them, my studio, which is...
Is it the same place where you had the tape op interview a couple years ago?
No.
Different. Okay.
Different place. Smaller.
Oh, jeez.
Little room. And Pro Tools LE.
Nice. Which version?
Well, I have the 002.
Okay.
But, now that you don't have to use the DigiDesign interface, I have a Lynx Aurora 16 in and out, and I partner that up for tracks 17 through 24, because I have a 24-channel board.
Okay. What kind of board?
Oh, that's the gem.
Was it Neotech? What is it?
No, Neotechs are great, though.
Yeah, I love those.
That's funny, because it's very similar to a Neotech in that unfortunately it's transformerless.
Okay.
And Neotechs are transformerless.
Yeah, sure.
I don't like that aspect of the console, because I had a transformer console. I had an Auditronics. You know those?
Yeah, I've heard the name before, yeah.
I had serial number 13.
Jesus, dude.
1973, Memphis, Tennessee made Auditronics. It's the same guys as Spectrasonics, which is Big Star Art Studios.
Sure.
Spectrasonics is also... Toys in the Attic was recorded on a Spectrasonics, and I believe mixed on an MCI.
That's awesome.
But recorded. Spectrasonics consoles are killer. Well, I had an Auditronics that had UTC transformers on it. Like 5 of them on every channel between the mic pre and the EQ, and the output and input. Now I have this thing called Audio Arts. It's the same guys as Auditronics. They turned into Audio Arts.
Yeah, I know. I'm familiar with Audio Arts.
But Audio Arts isn't very regarded.
Yeah,
it's transformerless. It's kind of clean and kind of. But I bought this console because I was able to hear it before buying it. It had it was commissioned for. It was bought by Warner Brothers Nashville in 1977. At the time when it arrived, and the Nashville engineers heard it, they said, "We got to mod this thing out." So I have a one of a kind, because mine, all the chips, it has, these consoles are full of chips.
Yeah, sure, of course.
All the chips are the exact same chips that are the chips that are in Neve consoles, the AB ones.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the chip, but it's a famous chip.
Sure.
I don't.
Like a Rupert name design.
That's the last thing I care about is a chip.
Right.
You know, I'm into like Gretchen's. You know, but it's got these. It was hot rodded back in the day.
Wow.
And then it was completely, gone through and troubleshot before I bought it. So it's a 24 channel. It's with 20 inline. Really good EQ. I do miss that kind of mystery glue of the Transformer sound.
Yeah.
Because I can hear it.
Yeah, for sure.
This is wider. It's kind of like deeper in a way.
Okay.
But it's not like creamy.
Okay.
It's cool. It's cool.
Which records have you done on this one?
None.
Fuck!
I mean, I've done records I've produced.
Okay, but none of your own stuff.
No. All those 2 solo records are that Auditronics, which was a little 16 channel.
Wait, the last 2? Oh, Caught on Noise Floor and I'm Okay.
And I'm Okay are that little Auditronics.
Jesus, dude.
But I have some crazy weird outboard stuff. Like I collect kind of like the unusual suspects. But most of that stuff is just that. A little bit of insert on various compressors and EQs. I have some API stuff, and then I mixed with plugins.
Right.
But then going through my 1178. That's my stereo bus.
Really? Guy,
which most people are like, you can't use an 1178 as a stereo bus compressor. It just doesn't. There's not enough information. You know, it's such a glue.
Yeah.
But if you don't hit it too hard. All that stuff was at 1178 as the stereo compressor.
When did you start getting into engineering? I mean, you clearly know a ton about it. I know you make all your own records and produce records for
I got into it late. I wasn't into it at all when I was in Jellyfish. I wasn't into it at all during the Grays. I started getting into it, I guess, I started getting into it during the Grays because Jack had such a crazy collection.
Yeah.
And I started realizing that I'm going to need to know how to do what I want to do because I'm explaining it to people, to legit, talented, incredible people, and they still can't do it.
Right.
They're not doing it the way I want to do it. They're doing it their way.
Right.
Which is just a different way, but it's not... I've always liked when somebody's not a professional. And I'm not a professional engineer at all. I've never read anything about engineering. I know very little about the reason why things do what they do.
Interesting.
I just fuck with it until I like the way it sounds. And I mean, I know I was being a little bit humble, but
right.
But not entirely. I mean, I don't know anything about. I don't know a lot about like phase. Fucking freaks me out. Gets me in trouble all the time. There's some stuff that's out of phase. Some drum stuff out of phase on I'm Okay, You're Okay, which drives me like that song On Into Other drums are completely out of phase. To me, that's embarrassing. Like that should never happen.
Yeah.
Oh, they're totally out of phase. Like wildly.
Okay.
But the thing about phase is that it's not good or bad. It's not on or off.
Sure.
I mean, and when you're you gotta adjust so many.
Absolutely.
The more mics on one thing, the more
complicated it's gonna get.
Potential problems and complicated exactly. And
yeah.
There's sometimes the snare is out of phase, but it's actually got more bottom and thump. But it's out. But now the toms are out of phase.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why isn't there a plug-in? Maybe there is. But
okay.
When I first started in the studio. Okay, so Brendan Benson.
Mm-hmm.
That was me graduating in a second from cassette 4-track, which has treble bass, wheels. That fucking thing sounds good. That first one, the Porta 1, the one that's kind of heavy.
Sure.
Those mic pre's sound good, but that I went from that to a 32 channel API at Kingsway Lanois Studio in New Orleans, knowing nothing about subtractive EQ, I didn't know what the fucking Q was. I don't know anything about this
curve, the bell.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you could insert an effect post recording it. I thought you got to get it right to tape.
Interesting.
That's all I knew.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm pretty sure the inserts weren't around during the Beatles.
No, definitely not.
No. So you just get it right.
No, you have between positioning and mic placement, you get it right.
Exactly. And all the effects, you got to record
in
those
real time. Sure.
Yeah. So that's what I did on all that stuff.
On the first record, on your first solo record too?
No, my first record I had an engineer.
Okay.
And that first record, that's the one that was done at Chick Corea Studio.
Okay.
That was on an 8068 Neve. But much to my chagrin and dismay, and I can't wait to, I own that record now, and I can remix it if I want. And I believe I have the master tapes in my I have the 2-inch master tapes in my storage. Much to my chagrin, that was mixed on an SSL with a guy that did not know how to mix my kind of rock and roll. It's so polite.
See, maybe it's just me because I get nostalgic for that record because I had a real moment with that album. Like, to be honest, if I can be honest, like, you know, I was a fan of Jellyfish, and a friend of mine was like, "Dude, you got to hear Jason Falkner's solo record. It's ridiculous." And I was like, and I was taking a flight back. I went to visit him in Florida. He was like, "Dude, take this cassette with you and listen to it." And I finally put it on. And I was like, "All right." And I listened to it. And I listened to the first song, and I was like, Jesus. And I wound back and listened to it again, and then the first and second, and then went back, and then the first, second, and third. And I had a layover in Atlanta, and I was in there, and I was just in my own little world, and it just hit me like that. It finally got it, and I was like, this is just the song. The writing was great, and like, I mean, I think parallel for the time, the production sounds like other things of the time.
Oh, I'm not pissing on anything about that record except the mix, and still the mix worked for me then.
Sure.
You know, I think I'm so proud of that record. I'm very pleased to hear you say that. Like, I think when people get that record, it's like something that they'll have for the rest of their life.
Absolutely. Every song on it is consistent, different, and unique, and moving. It's great.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome, brother. Absolutely.
I think in the regard of the way that record was made, it's actually more interesting than the second one. Because to me, the second one, conversely, is too squashed and like pumping. But I still like it. But the first one has like a real kind of homemade quality to it.
For
like,
sure.
You know, like, it still has a bedroom quality.
That's there. Definitely.
Even though it was done at Chick Corea's crazy studio. And boy, there's a regret. His engineer, his assistant guys that were just always just looming. They were like, "Wow, you have some cool old synthesizers," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm into old synths and stuff." And they were like, Chick's got he's got a warehouse downtown. He's getting rid of a lot of stuff. He'd probably give you like a crazy deal because you're here making a record already. You should go check it out." And I never did,
dude.
And I'm so bummed.
I mean, there had to be gold in there.
Gold,
man. Like,
gold,
totally,
gold.
Totally.
I'm sure. I know for a fact that he was selling 2 mini Moogs for like $1,000.
I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, now
like,
they're 3 or 4.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I got an Oberheim 2 voice. You know what that is?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
yeah.
I got an Oberheim 2 voice.
That's awesome.
For free.
How?
Well, this dude that I knew, this friend of mine, who unbelievably had box chower tattooed inside his lip.
Okay.
Yeah, just one of these guys that I knew. He, you wouldn't think that a guy from the Grays would know a guy with box chow. See? It's all full of surprises. But he was like, "Yeah, I'm moving into this place." It was somewhere in Hollywood, and he's like, "Yeah, and it's totally emptied out, except there's this weird," and this is exactly what he said, "there's this weird, like, Brian Eno shit in the closet." And I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
Do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, there's like a suitcase, but I opened the suitcase, and it's like an old Brian Eno kind of synthesizer or some bullshit." And I was like, biting my cheek not to squeal. And I was like, "You bring it over." He's like, "Do you want it?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, probably. Let me check it out."
Yeah.
And he brings over, it's a mint condition Oberheim 2 voice.
Wow. Dude.
Somebody left.
That's fucking ridiculous.
And those are that's on eBay for $4,500.
Yeah,
you
easily.
know.
Jesus, man, that's incredible.
For free.
Did you get that recently or a while ago?
Oh, no.
While ago.
Oh, no. If that happened now, that would be a true Cinderella story.
Yeah.
Everybody knows now.
Yeah.
I mean, my friend would never get rid of it now.
Sure.
This is way pre-internet,
Yeah.
pre-cell phone. This
Totally.
is, this is when the world... Innocent is the only word I can think
anymore.
of.
Yeah.
No, it's not innocent
it really
at all.
is gone, and it's happening quicker and quicker every day.
And nobody talks about it. Like,
I don't know. I feel like it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, people are going to start talking about it. I think just the technology stuff and like people losing innocence,
Yeah.
I was having this conversation with my friend the other day about like Google Glass and how people can have these glasses and like, which is a terrifying thing.
Wait, what is it?
Google Glass is out now. You can get glasses and like essentially there's like face recognition software.
No,
it's kind of like next level. Like this is not a good scene. He just told me about this 2 days ago, and I was like, "Fuck, man, don't do this to me. I'm out here on vacation. I'm having a good time. I don't need to start thinking like I know I'm going to start thinking."
Yeah. Oh,
But
that's insane.
I digress. Yeah, look into it when you get a chance. It's pretty scary. Sorry to shit on your day there, brother.
Why? Shouldn't those people be like working on cancer? The people
Exactly.
come up with
Maybe like bring the world together, as opposed to like, face recognition software that locks into your Facebook page and your Twitter account. Like, go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
it's gonna be Brainstorm. The guy like masturbating to death. Remember that shit in Brainstorm?
Dude, totally. It's getting weird.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a great life right here.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I feel like younger people feel that way. We'll get there.
I was on the verge of something wonderful, and you were gonna be part of it. That is no lie. But I lost myself in you. Yes, I lost myself in you. Oh, I lost myself in you, and I don't know what to
That was it, guys. Part one. Fucking JF, as I call him. I didn't call him that to his face. But it is JF. Jason Falkner, what the fuck? That's why I think, for like years of my life, I referred to him as JF. I was like, fucking JF's new record's fucking unbelievable. This fucking guy, man. It's unbelievable. One of those artists who you like, every time you hear his music, at least I do, and I literally am like, fuck this. This is too good. Like, how the fuck do you do this? But it was a great conversation, like I said. And stay tuned next week for part 2. We get into some other stuff. The whole thing, I try to keep it kind of chronological, so it kind of goes along. We jump around a little bit, but for the most part, it's chronological. So the part 2 will be next week. If you guys could go on to bringsustogether.com, take a look at the blog. We're posting things all the time. Facebook page, Twitter, send me an email. Go on to iTunes and subscribe to us on iTunes and leave a comment. Rate it, whatever you want. Even if you tell me, hey, Ryan, do me a favor and go fuck your face. I have no problem with that. You just let me know, okay? It sounds good. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Check out Jason Falkner Part 2 next week. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
And I want to dance with you. I need you to enjoy just the thought of it. Giving, oh, walk me through your maze. I promise I won't stray until I see you